did you come to work with Nicholas Winding Refn on this project called Drive?
I made friends with Brian McNellis from Lakeshore Records from working on Lincoln Lawyer. I think that's the connection. He is friends with Adam Siegel, one of the producers of Drive. Adam asked Brian to watch the film and specifically tell him what he thought about the music, and the question of who do you think would be an appropriate composer came up. So I'm indebted to those two guys. Nicholas had heard of me. He came over to my house. I played the baschet crystal for him, and I think he thought I was a bit of a weirdo and would be perfectly cast for the position of composer on Drive.
That's excellent. Speaking of the crystal baschet, I have heard that you're one of only 2 people in the United States that own one. So I was really curious how you came across one and why you love the instrument and kind of how it influences your work.
Yeah, you can't buy them at Guitar Center. I first saw the instrument in, I'm going to have to give away my age. I first saw it in 1965 when I was a little kid. There was an exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And my mother actually encouraged my my interest in music. And they had seen the exhibit. My parents were both from New York. I grew up in Columbus. But they saw the exhibit, came back to Columbus, flew me back out to the Museum of Modern Art to see this exhibit. And I think there was a dozen instruments by the Baschet brothers. Nowadays, they really have narrowed it down to their flagship instrument, the Baschet crystal. So years later, I tracked them down, and I wanted the instrument for Solaris, which it was used just a little bit. But I've now cleared out all the furniture in my living room. There's now a set of 6 bass steel drums and the Baschet crystal. So I love the instrument. It's very unique. It's played with moistened fingers on glass rods. It has a very kind of ethereal sound that's hard to describe, but it's featured prominently in Drive. It's anytime you hear the love theme, that's the Baschet crystal. And usually every director comes over, looks at it, thinks it's great, and then they hear it in their film and they go, no, it sounds like the mothership's going to land or something. But Nicholas fell in love with it, and it's front and center stage in Drive.
It is, and it's wonderful. I actually really found it very emotional to listen to such an ethereal instrument in that movie. I thought it was great. What was the brief that Nicholas gave you regarding the type of score he wanted in Drive?
The brief kind of came in the form of the temp score. The songs are all locked down, and often they don't really inform the score that much. It's either too eclectic or you can't find the scoring equivalent of rap music. Those songs suggested to me were a very strong statement of style, so they kind of indicated that I should have some kind of reference to 80s synth pop. I think the first thing that Nicholas said was, my favorite movie is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and if you haven't seen it, you should check it out, because I think it informed the score. So I knew he wanted a bit of kind of a horror tone to a movie that really isn't in that genre. The other thing that he said to me was, I've always wanted to make a fairy tale about Los Angeles. And this is before I'd seen the film or read the script. And then he screened it for me, and then after I saw the skull crushing and the fork in the eye, the comment about the fairy tale kind of got lost on me. But afterwards, I came to realize that he wanted me to emphasize not so much the action and the violence, but the romantic, softer, feminine side of the film. So I think those were kind of that was the outline, the blueprint for the score. And then he left town. He went back to Copenhagen, and we corresponded daily by Skype. So it was a very close creative partnership. He would call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. He would just get up, have his cup of coffee, and I would be delirious and half asleep, so he always had the advantage.
Excellent. What was the greatest challenge you faced on this score?
The deadline. I don't know why they procrastinated on the decision to hire a composer. I'm not sure why, but usually, I get anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks to do something. Because the film was going to Cannes, I had 4.5 weeks, which is, a lot of guys in television do things that quickly. For me, that's barely enough time to, brew the coffee and roll out of bed. So I felt that the most difficult challenge was just trying to squeeze everything in such a short time frame. And Nicholas was fairly demanding. There was he wanted to get it right. He wanted it to be a great score. But sometimes it works in your favor. Sometimes you just go with your first impulse and hope that it's correct. Oftentimes it is. And I think with Drive, it was, the time frame could have made it a disaster, but I think in this case it came out great. Monogamy has its advantages, and I think Stephen is the only director I've worked with more than once. I'll be working with Nicholas Refn the second time in his next film. But I think what's interesting about the relationship is we kind of, at this point, can kind of read each other's minds. I know his likes and dislikes, and he knows my strengths and weaknesses. And Stephen has a very unique point of view about film music, and most of my point of view I kind of have gotten from him, which is he doesn't want the music to kind of overstate itself or to state the obvious. He likes to leave a lot of the interpretation of the story on the viewer, and give them credit for figuring things out. So that kind of, in some ways, diminishes the role of the music. He likes to leave things a bit open-ended. He also can make things a little bit more powerful and a little more intelligent. So he's always been kind of encouraged me to do things that were distinctive, different, but also usually very stark and minimal. So I think I owe Stephen my entire sort of style and approach. But the relationship, if anything, it's gotten, we talk less and less. I think I'm changing. I got like 3 text messages, 2 emails, and 1 face-to-face meeting. So it seems like a lot of people, I always do my best work with Stephen, it seems, and it seems to be all accomplished through telepathy, which I guess is the most sophisticated kind of relationship you can have.
Right. Like a level of comfort and confidence that the director doesn't want to meddle so much because he knows you so well after so many projects. It's great. I think that's a great relationship to be with. I mean, rather than someone looking over your shoulder.
Sometimes usually it's you complain because you're being, micromanaged, and Stephen is kind of the opposite of that.
That's excellent. So what do you owe to your continuing working relationship with Soderbergh?
Well, I guess you do something that they like. I think it's, half of it is the work, half of it is your personality. Are you a good hang? Are you someone that's easy to communicate? Do you understand them? Probably the scores. I mean, more than anything, I think Stephen is practical, and you get cast for something that he feels is appropriate. And so I think everything that he's called me for is like, it feels like a perfect, romantic, existential science fiction film. That's me. That was a deep, dark secret that I was very curious about. I was kind of puzzled because I just thought composers are don't seem to be typical choices for jurors. But I spoke to one of the festival organizers, and he was just in love with Drive and the music. So I think that's what got me into it. In fact, he took credit for dragging me into this. And it's a great way to see the festival, because every time I've been here with a film, like last time I think I was here, 2002 with Narc, and I saw Narc, and then the rest of the time just spent days getting doors closed in my face, not getting tickets to screenings, not getting into the parties. So the jury thing is really like the way to experience Sundance. I'm getting to see all the great dramatic films on the dramatic jury, and they've just treated me like Elvis Presley.
That's great. So, since you've been seeing so many movies, are there any scores at Sundance that you think are exceptional And which ones do you love and why?
I've been given a little electrode implant, and if I discuss any of the films, I get a mild electric shock. But I will say that the thing that's interesting about Sundance is the independent spirit. People are doing films that are kind of distinctive, very personal, idiosyncratic, and kind of out of the mainstream. And I've heard several scores that kind of are of a similar mindset. So I have heard some cool music. Last night I heard the Chemical Brothers, Crystal Method spinning. That was pretty exciting. I saw Rodriguez, the subject of the film Waiting for Sugarman. So I've seen a few cool musical events as well.
That's great. Do you notice like a trend of new scores coming into this independent film scene, or like I've noticed that the end of Love does not have a score. They're kind of opting to do more of a song-driven, bass approach. So I don't know if you've seen any sort of trends rather than naming specific films.
I think in general, not just with Sundance, but there's more of a trend towards the combo platter songs and score thing. And I think one of the things that kind of made Drive get a lot of attention was the fact that they work together so well. Oftentimes the score and the songs go their own separate stylistic ways. But I've seen a couple films here that are like a very, very sophisticated, slick marriage of the songs and the score. You can't really tell the difference. Usually the songs are very conspicuous. They're set apart. They've got vocals. But I've seen a couple things where the blend of the songs and the score are very, very good. And I think a lot of people have wanted to use songs in films. As a composer, I'm a little biased against that. That's just composers. But lately, I have to admit, I've seen some very good, hybrid song score soundtracks here at the festival and elsewhere.
Great. The last question is, do you have any projects upcoming that you want to talk about, or kind of any news that you'd like to share?
I did 4 films in 2011. I think my next big project is to go home and do my laundry. But the next definite thing on the books is Only God Forgives. That's Nicholas Refn's new film, starring Ryan Gosling. It'll be shot in Thailand, one of my favorite vacation spots in the world. So I'm actually hoping maybe I can score this from a hotel room in Thailand. That's my dream. And maybe I could be the cover of Mix magazine. Right next to like Remote Control Studios, they'll have a picture of my hotel room with my mini speakers and my laptop and espresso machine. So that's what's next for me. That begins in April, and beyond that, I'll be standing by the freeway with a cardboard sign that says "We'll score for food."